Hello and welcome back to a new video. If you are new here, I'm Sarah, I'm from Germany and I've been living in Australia for the past 3.5 years, and on this channel I talk about my life in Australia and also traveling in Australia. In this video we're gonna talk about my biggest culture shocks when I first came to Australia. I'm going to start from the least shocking ones to my number one shocker in Australia. Let's go. Okay, let's start with number 8, how much wildlife there actually is. In Australia, it is so easy to see wildlife, and coming from a country that's like very, very populated, you're not really used to that, to see animals all the times. And you see your bin chickens, your cockatoos, your wallabies, your kangaroos, even koalas. They're a little bit harder to spot, but you can still see them out in the wild, and that is so cool and something that really shocked me a little bit in the beginning because I'm just not used to that. So when I was in the cities along the East Coast, you could already see so much wildlife, but as soon as I left the cities and went more inland, it was just blowing my mind how much wildlife you would see on the roads, and obviously how much roadkill there is as well. If you have a lot of wildlife, you also have roadkill. And over the years, I've spotted so many different animals in Australia, from whales to dolphins and wombats, wallabies, kangaroos. Honestly, is still something that's shocking me, and I just really love that. Number 7, Australian houses. The amount of times I heard, you should be used to the cold as a German, and my answer will always be yes, but not inside a house. And I know the reason for that is that we have different standards of building houses, and I totally get it. There's milder climate in Australia. In Germany, we build houses to go way below -degrees, and obviously you have to build the house very different and the insulation will be way more. And it's also not allowed to have single glazing windows in your house in Germany. In Australia, that's normal. And I really first noticed that 3 years ago when I moved into a house in Perth for the first time, and I actually lived in a house for a little bit longer than like just a few days in a hostel. And I was just shocked. And I was already used to that from New Zealand. When I was 19, I did a work and travel year in New Zealand, so that's very, very similar. But I never really lived in a house in New Zealand. So the first time was in Australia, and what can I say? I was just blown away how people will build houses that are not really warm inside. And also, I lived in Tasmania, and Tasmania is cold 6 months of the year, and still our bathroom window was half open with just a fly screen in front of it. And I know it's like for mold and stuff, I get it, but in Germany we would say, wir heizen nicht für draußen. Number 6, the use of old cars. So that's another thing I noticed pretty much straight away coming over here, because you see a lot of old cars, and sometimes they are really pristine, sometimes they are literally just wrecked and no one cares. And coming from Germany, from the country of the cars, no speed limit, this was so different and noticeable straight away. And I actually really like it, because why not use a car until it's falling apart instead of getting a new one before it even reached 100,000 Ks, because that's really normal to us. I don't know a lot of people that have cars that have over 100,000. And here in Australia, I think everyone that I know has old cars. There are exceptions, of course. There are lots of new cars on the roads now in Australia too. That was different 10 years ago as well. But you still see way more older cars, and people are really taking care of them as well. And it is literally so normal to have a car that has 400,000 Ks on it, and it's still driving just fine. My pretend Land Cruiser, a Prado, is just roughly over 460 Ks now, 460,000 Ks, and it's still going strong. And I love it. I can't even think about having a new car. This is so outstanding as a German in particular, I think, because we just have the newest, flashiest cars on the roads, and there are barely people who are driving used old cars. Number 5, birds noises all year round. A wonderful shocker, I must say, because In Germany in wintertime, it is dead quiet. You don't hear anything besides like your other noises that are going on, but you don't hear any birds. And in Australia, all year round, no matter if it's winter, right now it is winter, it's June, and you hear the birds all the time. Besides, like some of them are extremely loud, like cockatoos, they're literally like screaming. Besides the one that sounds like a monkey, and I think that's a cockatoo, I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments below. But there are some birds that sounds like monkeys, which is so crazy to me. But the fact that you hear birds all year round is so wonderful. In Germany, you know when it's springtime because you slowly hear the birds again around March when it's spring, and it's the most wonderful sound in the morning you can hear because now you know you get out of winter. Number 4, saying happy birthday before your actual birthday. I am pretty sure that this is American. So in America, it is very normal to say happy birthday before midnight, before your birthday. And I'm not sure if all Aussies do that. I think some do it, some don't. But I remember in 2019, I also traveled in Australia for 8 weeks. And I've celebrated my 24th birthday at that time in Adelaide with some friends that I've met along the way. And yeah, it was before midnight and they started to say happy birthday to me. And I was like, why do you do this to me? Because in Germany, it means bad luck. No one ever would say happy birthday before midnight. No one. That is really considered bad luck. And if someone does that, then it doesn't mean anything good. They don't mean well with you. And yeah, here it seems to be sort of normal, I guess, but it was such a shocker to me. And I heard about that, obviously. I knew in America it's normal, so I just thought maybe it is normal in Australia too. So I still appreciated it, but it felt so wrong to me that people said happy birthday before midnight. I didn't say anything, but yeah, it's just such a shocker to me. Number 3, barefoot in public. What could be a culture shock video without the barefoot in public one? It wouldn't be a culture shock video because for most people, I would say it is, especially for Europeans, it is really not normal to be barefoot in public, especially not in supermarkets and in shops. People really don't want to see your feet. It is literally considered rude to show your feet, even just in thongs, or how normal people call them, flip-flops. It is not a thing. We don't like it. And it's really European, I think. And yeah, such a shocker, but I loved it from the very first second because we are humans. We should be barefoot. We were born barefoot. Why not be barefoot? It should be the most normal thing, but because society just made the rule of it's not normal, it is not normal. And if you ever come to Germany or Europe, I would not recommend you doing that because people will think you're homeless. I know that sounds so stupid because why would you be homeless just because you're not wearing shoes? But that's our normal. Number 2, drink-free zones and smoke-free zones. Another thing that absolutely shocked me in the beginning was the zones of no drinking, no smoking, something I've never seen in my life before, and I'm still not sure if I like it or not. I'm not drinking, I'm not smoking, so I'm really not that interested in it anyways. But when I first came to Australia, I was. And the fact that you're not allowed to smoke in front of buildings was just such a new concept to me. And the fact that you're not allowed to drink in public just absolutely blew my mind. And I remember we bought some alcohol on the street in the city and we had to put it in those brown paper bags to not show to the public that we have alcohol. And you would hide if you drink and everything. And that was just like, what? So crazy. In Europe that doesn't really exist, and it was just really shocking, as well as that you have to go to a different store, to a liquor store, to buy the alcohol. You can't buy it in the supermarket. And you basically, when you're young and you look young, you always have to show your ID, like literally always. I never had it happen to me that I didn't have to show my ID. And I also just found out that when you have a child with you in a liquor store and the child is touching the alcohol, the store is not legally allowed to you to sell that anymore, which is nuts. So I'm all for it to check the ID and everything. Like, I think minors really shouldn't drink any alcohol. I'm all for it, but it was just such a shocker to me when I was younger. And yeah, absolutely different to what I was used to. Last but not least, number one, talking to strangers and smiling to strangers. I'm very sure you heard this one before, but I need to explain why this was my number one shocker. So 10 years ago, when I first arrived in Australia, I've been to New Zealand before, and New Zealand is in this point very similar. I know they're completely different countries, but in this point they're very, very similar. If Kiwis are not just a little bit more friendly, I don't know how that's possible, but they are just like over on the top friendly. And I want to tell you a story that happened in New Zealand, but it happened to me in Australia afterwards again and again and again. But I just want to tell you this one story. I was 20 years old, and just keep in mind, 10 years ago, there was no TikTok. YouTube was a completely different platform. There was literally no information about culture shocks or how is Australia, how is New Zealand, nothing like that, or I just didn't know how to look for it. And Instagram was still square pictures, no reels, no stories. That's the time I'm talking about. No information. I had no idea about different cultures. I've seen a few places before in my life, but not many by myself. I traveled to New Zealand by myself, and I found a friend. And we went to a store, Cotton On, and we bought a few things. So we went to the till to do the checkout. And this lady was like, "Hey, how are you going?" And I knew that some people would ask that. So I was like, "Yeah, good, thank you." Just like how I was, didn't say much. And she's like, "So how was your day? And what are your plans for the day?" And I was like, yeah, we're doing this and that. And I didn't really know what to say because I was just shocked that anyone in a store would ask me for my day. I did not know what to do. And yeah, I just told her what we were doing, and then we ended up talking about what we're gonna do for New Year's Eve and all these things. And we went out of the store, and my friend and me looked at each other and we were like, what just happened? Why are these people so friendly? I was just mind blown, because in Germany, it is the most normal thing to grab your things, go to the till, do your checkout, and you go there and say, "Hi," and then you wait there in silence. That's normal for us. It's not considered rude or anything. It is the most normal thing in the world. And then you need to imagine 19 years, 20 years old on the other side of the world, and someone all of a sudden asks you, "How was your day?" Like someone is asking you, "What are you doing for New Year's Eve?" I was so shocked. And I obviously really loved it, because I thought these people are the most friendly people I've ever met in my life. And now I understand more why that is, because it's just normal. It's in the culture of Aussies and Kiwis. But for Germans, it is normal to not do that. So as I said, it's not considered rude, it's not unfriendly, it's just what we do. But such a big shocker for me. And it still is sometimes. Like, I'm really used to it now, obviously. But every time I go back to Germany, I need to switch my brain back to German and like, shut up. Because when you try and start a conversation with someone at a checkout in like a supermarket, they're like, "Why are you talking to me?" So there you go. These are my 8 biggest culture shocks in Australia. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel if you like to see more of my content. And I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.